Hello, everyone, and welcome to the YouTube. I'm very excited about this one because I'm be going over my client who lost 25 pounds in just under 60 days. I kid you not, 25 pounds in just under 2 months. And he did this all by working 12-hour days, even more than that, and also traveling literally every other week. Like every other week, he was in a different hotel at a different place. And let's face it, he had a lot of client dinners, and that meant a lot of eating out and a lot of drinking almost 5 times a week. Okay. And you guys can see the results. Look, before he looked like this, and now he looks like this. He told me when we started that he all he wanted was to be incredibly vascular, and in under 60 days we did that clearly. Um, so this guy is like a executive VP, 12 plus hour days, a new city every other week, client dinners, open bars, let's face it, and had zero time to think about food. He was overweight and running on empty. He just felt like every other program was not designed for him. He didn't have time. He did not have time to put into, going to the gym that much and putting into, meal prepping and whatnot. And, just 60 days later, he thought he had zero hope, but he's now shredded, right? We're going to keep it going, right? This is just the tip of the iceberg, but he's shredded already. Still traveling, still at client dinners, and still living his life. And he just finally had the system that worked around all of it, right? He didn't have to change a thing about his life. All that changed was the system in which he approached the fitness, right? So, the problem, the client ran a company, and my client ran a company, the client that I'm talking about, and his calendar had no white space. He was in a different hotel every other week, drinking at client dinner every other day, and eating whatever was put in front of him. He had tried trainers before, programs before, but nothing stuck because nothing was built for the life that he actually had. Right? You can't be an executive traveling every other week, working your butt off every single day, weekends included, and still expect yourself to do as much as the guy who has hours every day to lay around and you know cater to the meal prepping, cater to the 2-hour workouts, whatever. He didn't have time for all of that, right? But he still wanted to get in shape, and that's the disconnect. People think you can't do both, but you can 100% do both. And you know fitness will only enhance your life. And that's exactly what it did here. His life wasn't the obstacle, the generic programs were. All the other coaches trying to tell him that he couldn't do both. That is what was wrong. Not the fact that he can't do both. The other coaches are the culprit by trying to get into his head, telling him that he can't do both when we both know that's incredibly false. Because you don't need that many hours a day dedicate to fitness. All you need is the right strategy, and everything will come into play. What it caused, this mindset, caused the weight to keep climbing despite trying. Felt like his lifestyle made fitness impossible. The fact that he was so busy, it just felt like fitness didn't have a spot in his life. He had low energy, low confidence. Behind closed doors, he knew that something had to change, hook or crook, right? And what was missing was a system built for the chaos, and the alcohol accounted for, right? I told them when it came in, I was like, all right, yeah, I maybe don't want you drinking as much as you've been drinking, but we don't have to cut it down that much. We can cut it down a little bit, right? Still maintain a healthy balance, right? And with that, he was still able to enjoy everything that he wanted, but we got the result, right? A system that was built for the chaos, alcohol accounted for, and not eliminated. A hotel gym and no gym protocols, right? So nutrition rules simple enough to run on autopilot at 11 p.m., right? So even when he's, at a client dinner and he went overboard, we knew that the rest of the week we could account for that, right? And that was the whole system. My philosophy behind it: the most successful people in the world do not have perfect schedules, and they have better systems, right? So you could have someone who lays around for hours every single day do a cookie cutter bodybuilder program to get in shape. Yeah, cool. The people who are most successful don't have that time to be lying around. And as a result, they got to rely on better, more efficient systems to get them there. Right. So he was drinking a lot at client dinners, and he had a lot of social gatherings that he needed to cater to, which involved, going off plan. So we didn't make that the enemy, right? We formulated a strategy around it. So I did not ask him to stop drinking, and he knows that. I built a nutrition framework that absorbed it, and drinking nights had a protocol, right? The days around them had a protocol as well, and he stayed in a deficit without ever feeling that he was on a diet, right? I always made sure that he was hydrated, right? I always made sure that he had energy to go train. And apart from that, let everything else fall as it may, right? But travel did not stop the program. It is part of the program. The hotel gym, the airport food, the room service at midnight, right? And he didn't do it too much, but when he was traveling, he did have to eat at the airport. When he was at a hotel, he might have had to get room service or go to a client dinner, and all of that had protocols around it, right? And a very loose protocol. So every scenario had a playbook. He never felt like he had to figure everything out on his own, and rather he felt like everything else was just laid out, for him, and he didn't really have to think about it. And lastly, an executive needs a system that runs on minimal bandwidth, right? He runs a company, right? He's an executive at a company. He cannot spend the mental energy, on what do I eat? No, you just ask me, what do I eat? And he essentially outsourced all of his nutrition to me so that, when in doubt, I could just tell him, nah, just go eat this, right? And it was like simple. He didn't have to think about it. And the less he had to think, the better his decisions were. The system. So my done for you process. Phase 1, raising the consciousness. We used to map his entire week. If he had travel days, I would ask him to, get up a little bit earlier, go for a quick run, do things to keep you active. If he was drinking, maybe I would say cut out the carbs, increase the protein, increase the fats, right? We built awareness around every food decisions without adding cognitive load. And all of these decisions were done by me so that he didn't have to think about shit, right? Simple daily rules replaced the need for tracking, and he knew exactly what to do in every scenario before it actually happened. Phase 2, suffocating the resistance, right? We didn't want to make it seem like it was too hard for him to do, or else he would just pull back, right? Because he's busy, right? So back-to-back travel weeks, big client nights, or red-eye flights. This is where a lot of the executives just stop, right? Because it's too hard. But I adjust in real time every time that he felt like he couldn't handle it, right? If he got so hungry, if he got too hungry at the end of the night, even with the high volume food, I was like, you know what, just eat more, right? And later on, we'll account for it. And he didn't really have to think about it, right? It was all done for him. And the plan bent so he never broke, and the weight kept coming off the entire time. Phase 3, cementing the new identity. He went from overweight executive to a shredded executive, but the same job, same travel, same social life, nothing ever changing, right? And that permanent identity of the man that was once overweight walking into a conference room, now like diced out of his mind, that's something that is identity shifting. That's not just physical. And he didn't have to give up anything to get that new identity. And lastly, with all of that said, he made this transformation in just under 60 days, 25 pounds going 195 pounds on the left-hand side to 170 pounds, all within the span of 2 months, less than 2 months. And it goes to show you, if you have the right system, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you like to eat, what you like to do on a daily basis. You can still lose fat sustainably and love your life doing it, right? You can have your cake and eat it too. Trust me. And if you guys also want to get a result like that, I highly suggest you book a call with me down below in the description. And before we talk, DM me the word Desi on Instagram at AkashGetsJacked, and we'll have a conversation before we hop on. But hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.